Hi everyone, this is Matt from endsickness.org. We are going to be talking about identifying hidden histamine triggers today. This is very important for people who have autoimmune disease or any type of inflammatory issue. As we know, all diseases originate in inflammation. It's the one thing that's present in all conditions. So any type of inflammatory chemical is important to modulate that chemical in your body so that you don't have inflammatory symptoms. All symptoms that, whether they're neurological symptoms, whether they're pain in your knee, whether it's pain in the stomach, everything originates in inflammation. So histamine is the #1 inflammatory chemical in the body. It's secreted by mast cells. There are various ways to control histamine. One way being calming down the mast cells, modulating the mast cells. Another way is removing histamine from the diet and from your behavioral processes and behavioral cycles per se. So #1, we're going to go through various symptoms of what it feels like to have a histamine response so you're able to identify these things, and then I'll go through some other points at the end and some other things just are worth mentioning. #1, mental symptoms. When you have a histamine reaction or you consume something that induces a histamine response, initially it might feel pretty good. Histamine is responsible for wakefulness. It's the chemical that is highest in the morning. It's supposed to be lowest in the evening. That's when GABA takes over. GABA is the chemical that opposes histamine. They both compete for the same receptors, and there's something called the histamine GABA sleep-wake cycle. Histamine and GABA, in essence, balance each other. In essence, they compete with receptors to either calm you down or get you highly alert. Histamine is what makes you alert, makes you ready to go. GABA is what relaxes you and gets you ready for sleep. Another way to put it, when you drink alcohol, you secrete GABA. GABA increases. And when you're in a fight or flight response, histamine increases. So that's the easy way to make an analogy. So mental symptoms are typically a racing mind, inability to shut off the thoughts, inability to sleep deeply or be able to sleep easily, go to sleep easily. Other symptoms could be anxiety, could be heavy depression. Things could look dark. You could be misperceiving things from people. You could be taking things the wrong way. Being in a high histamine mental state is similar to a lot of what they refer to as mental health disorders. If you look at the majority of mental health disorders, there are elevated histamine levels in the brain, and that is what I believe partially responsible for the inability for dopamine to compete with the same receptors and GABA to compete with the same receptors. Histamine basically will compete with the same receptors as dopamine and GABA, your two feel-good chemicals. So if you have high histamine, then you're swarming the receptors with histamine molecules, and it doesn't allow the good-feeling chemicals to attach. So your mental symptoms are pretty much the opposite of feeling good and having ambition. The energy you'll have will be nervous energy. You'll be trying to keep moving because you can't just sit down and relax and turn the mind off. Meditation is impossible. It's tough to stop moving your leg or your arms or anything. You can't just sit still. So these are like the mental symptoms. It's just tough to turn off the mind. It's the never-ending battle against yourself in your head. That's what the mental symptoms are for high histamine. So like I said, you can anything from schizophrenia to other mental health disorders, quote unquote, like ADHD, etc., are shown to be related to histamine levels. So #2, physical symptoms. When you eat something, you have a histamine reaction. You could have a little bit of a vasodilation of the blood vessels. You could feel a little bit more like amped, like you're ready to go. You could feel a little itchiness on the skin, even maybe on the arms and the back. You could feel your eyelids start to get a little bit dry. Your skin could get a little bit more red or drier. And see other physical symptoms. You could have a little bit of swollen intestinal or backup in the intestinal system. But most of the symptoms you're going to feel physically are going to be the itchiness, the mild itchiness in the arms, the dryness of the skin, and maybe the rapidness of the heartbeat. Typically, if you have a allergy response or a low-grade sensitivity to something, your heartbeat will increase by 10 beats per minute or more over the course of a minute, obviously. And you just test that 15 minutes later after you've had a food. That's something that I was told. It's not a guaranteed way to be able to determine sensitivities, but it is helpful if you're confused about them. Other symptoms of identifying histamine triggers. This is the most important one. This is like the secret one that nobody knows about. Is the things that you crave typically are things that you've consumed in excess. When you've consumed things in excess, your immune system typically is put into play to help get rid of these things, because there's too much of it in the body at one point in time. The body doesn't have the ability to get rid of it, so it uses the immune system to get rid of certain things that it doesn't have the capability of getting rid of due to low glutathione or whatever the issue is in the body. It could be genetic, whatever. But when you don't have the ability to get rid of these things naturally, when the immune system does it, then it creates a immune response, a memory of what it removed. So in essence, other symptoms relating to histamine, you could have all kinds of autoimmune related symptoms, any allergy related symptom, if you have coughing even, if you have sneezing, any of that stuff you think is just common allergies. A lot of the time it is actually that you consumed certain foods that triggered a histamine response, and now you're more reactive to your environment. People think that allergies are genetic, there's something you can't do anything about. That's false. They've shown that allergies actually, your allergenic state is determined based upon your blood histamine level. Your blood histamine level is low, you're not going to be as hypoallergenic in certain situations. If it's high, you're going to be reacting to things that you weren't reacting to with low blood histamine. The reason being, when your blood histamine levels are high, your mast cell population increases. Your mast cells are the ones responsible for sending out the allergenic chemicals, primarily histamine. So other symptoms, identifying histamine triggers in other ways, you really want to look at everything that happens that you would call an allergy response. And that is typically associated with some type of trigger histamine-wise that you've induced, typically through your diet or excessive activities, whether it's exercise, whether it's, typically it's excess in some manner. So key points I want to state here: identifying the hidden histamine triggers is the key to being able to allow your mast cell population to decrease. When your mast cell population decreases, then you have less capability to secrete inflammatory chemicals all over your body. The inflammatory chemicals are what are responsible for creating the symptoms. So whether you have autoimmune disease, or you have a bad knee, or you have problems with anything that is a symptom, it's triggered by inflammatory chemicals being released by your own cells. So if you're able to, in essence, control your own mast cells, modulate the mast cells through use of certain herbs that are known to do such, adaptogenic herbs, you can control the mast cells, you can control the secretion of the histamine, but it's key to be able to control the secretion of the histamine not only through herbs, but also through the identification of the hidden histamine inducers, because these are the things that are keeping you sick. In my experience, these are the things that are causing the symptoms, whether you have a condition that is as simple as a bad knee, or it's a migraine, or you have autoimmune disease. It's all has an inflammatory aspect to it that is reinforcing the cycle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a quick rundown on how do you identify the hidden histamine triggers, and we have a lot more like this coming. So thank you for listening. Please subscribe in the bottom, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Zensickness.org is here just to educate you, to help you learn how to heal yourself and learn how to find the right information so you can take care of yourself. Thank you, everybody, for listening.